Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you have a tale to tell, you're also welcome to contact me there at dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I'm very honored to have Senator Tammy Nichols on. She's a senator for District 10. And we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about family court issues. And I'm going to ask you, how did you get involved in all of this, being a senator, all of this?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, Marianne. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is not what I was ever planning on doing in my life. And I think a lot of people are that way that get into, politics or the legislature. But really, I have five kids and they're all adults now. But when they were in school, I was very active, very involved in their education. I was one of those moms that was always participating in, the school activities and going into the classrooms and helping and going on field trips, all that sort of stuff. So I was very, very involved. And I started seeing something called Common Core that
Mm.
started coming into the classroom. And
Ugh.
my kiddos were bringing home this paperwork that said Common Core on it. And I specifically remember my youngest son was in second grade and he brought home a homework assignment. And I'm looking through it and I'm thinking, what are you even supposed to do with this? Like, really,
Exactly.
what are you supposed to do? And I could not understand it. I showed it to his dad. His dad was like, I don't know what he's supposed to do with it. So I just did
Mm.
what every parent does, like take it to the teacher and say, hey, I don't understand what he's supposed to do on this. And it said Common Core on it. So I did
Mhm.
that. And the teacher just told me, well, this is the next greatest thing in education, and it's going to be so wonderful, and it's going to create such critical thinking and all this, but she couldn't really explain to me like why or what he was even supposed to do on the assignment. So I kind of just went up the chain of command. But in the process, I found other parents that were also concerned because they were seeing the same thing. So we kind of banded together and we reached out to our representatives and we got no response back from them.
Mm.
So we thought, well, that's kind of weird because aren't they supposed to be representing us? Aren't they supposed to be talking with us about our concerns? And so we widened our circle there and found legislators that would reach out and talk to us about our concerns. And then we found ourselves starting to go down and, testifying on legislation because Common Core became a really big deal. And then we were helping on bills, like reading bills, helping to write bills, then started working with other organizations. And I just thought, I think I could actually run for office and do this and give some better representation. The other portion of my concern was that I saw this disconnect between people and government. And I thought, well, that's not how it's supposed to work either. The people are supposed to be part of that process. So I decided to run for office and, started over in the House. I spent 4 years over in the House and then I ran for Senate. And so I just finished up my third year in the Senate. And I am on the Education Committee, I'm on the Commerce and Human Resources Committee, and then I chair the Agricultural Committee. I'm also a co-chair with the Idaho Freedom Caucus, and then serve on several different task forces. One that your viewers might be interested in that we're going to talk about today is our child custody and family law task force that we have.
Right, because I have interviewed uh, over 700 parents, and they have told me their stories of custodial interference, collusion, and conflict of interest going on in the family court system. They're looking for hope. Is there any hope that things are going to change?
There's always hope. And the way that this came about is during this last session, I had uh, some constituents come to me. They wanted to talk about their story. And they just said, we have some real concerns on what's going on with our situation. And we are hearing from a lot of other families that are experiencing similar issues going through this process. And so they came and talked to me during this last session, and I heard their stories, and I was just flabbergasted with what I was hearing, thinking, oh my gosh, what in the world? And I've been through the process myself. I've gone through a divorce, we had minor children still. And I'm thinking back to my experience, and I'm like, this is not even close to what I experienced. Like, what in the
Wow.
world? And these were not people that have criminal records or drug users.
Hmm.
These were professional, retired veterans, just nurses,
Yeah,
things
I
like
was in
that.
there.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on?
Right.
And I talked to a few of the other legislators here, and I just said, I think we really need to look into this because this is a problem. And then we were finding more and more people reaching out, talking about their story. And so we went to our leadership and just said, we really feel that we need to dive into this. During the session, we're in session usually about 3.5 to 4 months, and we're working on bills and legislation. We have committee meetings, we're meeting with lots of people. So it doesn't give us a lot of time to deep dive. So sometimes outside of the session, we have other committees or task force that are formed to be able to kind of do those deep dives. So
Hmm.
we really felt that this was a good issue to form a task force on and do that deep dive so we could really look into what is transpiring. And what we did, which is a little bit different than most other committees and task force that are formed, is we decided to take this on a road trip through the state of Idaho.
Hmm.
So we're not just in one location, we're taking it around different areas in Idaho so that we can have more input from people in those areas on their experience or what issues they're seeing. And it's not just the families that are coming and talking to us. We also have attorneys that have come to us to talk about their experience going through that process and what they see as problems.
Hmm.
We also have people that are in other areas that work within this scope of law, come to us and talk to us about what they see are the issues. So it's been very helpful to be able to go around to different parts of the state. And the first half of the task force, we have kind of the legality professional portion of it. We ask
Hmm.
different individuals from different agencies or attorneys or judges or what have you to come in and tell us about how their role, what part their role plays in the family court process.
Hmm.
And then the rest of the meeting, the afternoon of the meeting, we open it up to public testimony. And so individuals can come and testify. And it doesn't matter if they're with an organization or they're a family that's going through this issue and their experience or what have you. But we want those testimonies, so we can get those on record because we're looking for patterns and we're
Hmm.
looking to see what kind of loopholes or issues might be affecting the process because we want the process to work right and we want what's in the best interest of the child to occur. And if that's not happening, then we need to fix the issues on why that's not transpiring. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how that evolved to begin with.
So that must have been an undertaking as well.
Yeah, it took a little while to get it going, and our committee is made up of 10 legislators. We have five from the House, five from the Senate, and then there's one Democrat on from the House and the Senate.
Hmm.
And they're both actually attorneys. And we kind of wanted the attorneys on there so we could have kind of that legal perspective.
Hmm.
Some of the speakers kind of talk in legal language. So we wanted to be able to have a couple of attorneys on there to help out with that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was because there's so much information, and it's one of those areas in our state that really hasn't had a lot of oversight as far as like looking through things, seeing how things are working. It's just running, right? It's just
Hmm.
simply running. And it hasn't had a lot of looking into how it's actually working and how it's affecting individuals. And the testimonies that we have heard,
Hmm.
we've just had, we started in Boise and then we went up to Coeur d'Alene. We'll be in Idaho Falls the end of this month. So that will be our third meeting. And the meetings, the testimonies are just, they're mind blowing. I mean, I just can't wrap my head around some of them on how this is transpiring because people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases and years in the system trying to regain custody or partial custody or whatever the case may be. And I just don't, I just that part of it doesn't work with me. I'm like, this shouldn't be taking this on and it shouldn't be costing people hundreds of thousands of dollars to where they're having to get third jobs or mortgage their homes or whatever the case may be. We shouldn't be trying to bankrupt people to be
Hmm.
able to get their kids back. So there's definitely some problems. And we are looking, we actually started this because not just because of the issue, but we heard that Arizona had started one, a task force like this. And so we actually talked to their committee members to find out how they did it, what they did, how they got it going. And then since we formed ours and started ours, we've had states reaching out to us now asking us how to go about doing it because they want to do it there. And so this is not just an Idaho problem. This is
Hmm.
definitely a national issue that's taking place. And there's been other states that have had task force or some sort of committee type thing where they're looking into this too. And in fact, our neighboring state, Utah, did a bit of a revamp on their child custody laws last year. And so we're working on looking at their stuff too to see what they did. So there's a lot that's transpiring, but it's definitely needed. And
Hmm.
like I said, there's some really concerning issues out there on what's happening and the stories that we're hearing.
Right. I had interviewed attorney Bethany Neiman, sorry, and she had her client with her, Sarah, as well. I interviewed them twice. And it is that a parent presents their evidence and the judge disregards.
Yeah.
This is a constant, even in my case, it's a constant theme in everybody's case.
Hmm.
And there's no oversight on these family court judges. It is indeed the Wild West.
Yeah, it feels that way. And like I said, and it's not to say like my situation was completely opposite. It was great. It worked well. We went to mediation. Everything went well. I mean, we were able to get everything worked out very, very
Right.
businesslike, but it went well. But now I'm hearing these other stories, and I'm like, this is like a nightmare that people are living. They
Oh,
really are
yes.
in a situation and they don't see any end in sight. And, it's one of our committee members talked about at our last meeting that, they always say that divorce court, that's where the money is, that's a money maker. Well, no, family court is also up there. It's a money maker too in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And the issues that I'm really honing in on are the ones where we are finding that kids are being given to the abusers or they're being given to pedophiles that are coming out of the
Hmm.
prison system. And it's just like, why in the world are we allowing this? Why is this taking place? So those are some huge concerns I have. I know the cost involved with either um, like the orders that are given for families to go, for mental health evaluations or supervised visitation or whatever it is, those costs are a concern to a lot of the committee members because, like I said, we shouldn't be trying to bankrupt people who are simply just trying to get their kids back or facilitate some sort of co-parenting process, right? That
Hmm.
shouldn't be the goal. And yet that is exactly what we're doing in a lot of cases is that we are putting people in financial hardships to where they can't keep fighting the system or they have to find other means to be able to do so. And that shouldn't be how this is working. So that's a concern.
Definitely. Also, I think the Title 4D funding plays a lot into this. I also believe that's why there's a lot of MURDERSs taking place and people unaliving themselves over this Title 4D funding. And I'm sure you know about that, how the state matches funding with the Social Security monies, and it's $1 billion a year business and over $100 billion a year for the whole United States in general. And so I think that is the huge problem because a lot of that money also gets funded into the judges' pension funds. And I think that's why everybody knows everybody and they're all playing in the same sandbox together, rigging these cases. And that's what happened to me. And the false accusations of weaponizing CPS comes into play, where they take the parent out of their job. And it's not just the poor parents, it's the middle class. I was a nurse. And once they slapped a false allegation on me, I couldn't work. And then the ex-husband runs down to collect child support. And then, see, this is what people are doing. They're putting people in jail at taxpayers' expense. And this should not be happening at all. Debtor's
Right.
prison was abolished in 1834.
Right. Right. Well, we had one parent that testified at our last meeting up in Coeur d'Alene that had custody of their kids, had
Mhm.
full custody. And then all of a sudden, the other parent filed for custody and was given the custody of the kids. And then they told the parent that had the kids that they owed back child support. And there was no way they could pay the amount that they were doing. So they took away their driver's license and took away their hunting and fishing license. And so now they can't, how are they supposed to get to work? So why is that? That is wrong. That is not how that should be working. So that's one instance that was just very recent.
Mhm.
The Title 4D, that's an area that we are going to be looking into at our next meeting.
Oh, thank
We
you.
want to know more about how that works. And
Mhm.
so we're working on getting someone to come and speak on that area, because we want to understand. We're trying to understand all the different components, and there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into this system. There's a lot of different components, and so we're trying to get the full landscape view on how this works, and then hone in on some of those areas. The other thing that we've done with this task force is that we have a survey for families to be able to go and fill out, and people can contact me. They can go on my social media on Facebook. I have it linked on there. But we want people to fill out the survey so that we can look and see again for those patterns or the similarities or the different areas that we're really finding a lot of people are having issues. And I get it. I get that, that sometimes there are judgments that are made that people are not going to be happy with, right? And I understand that. Not everybody's going to be 100% happy with decisions that are made. But then there's those that are just completely out of the purview of what should be transpiring, and where you just really scratch your head and think, this cannot be right. This cannot be what's happening in this system of family court and law. And so those are the areas that are really concerning. Like I said, when we're giving kids to the abusers, or where we're giving
Mhm.
kids to pedophiles, or where we are requiring parents to go through multiple mental health evaluations, even
Mhm.
though they were found totally sane and totally normal in the last three, or that they're going through, supervised visitation forever and ever, to where the place that they're going to is saying, we don't know why you're here. You should not be here. So those are the questions that are coming up. Those are the things we want to hear about. And so we're looking at, what those areas are that we really need to hone in on.
You know, another concerning thing is weaponization of CPS and making false accusations on parents to get the kids away because they don't want to pay child support. Issues
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of these accusations, over 80 of them are, you know, not even real.
80%. Yeah, I think the
Higher.
number I heard was
I think it's
80% or higher. Yeah, of the cases reported are for the kids did not need to be taken, right? Like there was no reason for them to be taken. Yeah, and that is definitely, I mean, that plays a role in it. And there's a lot of false allegations that, and I get, you're in a very high conflict situation. And sometimes that's what people do is they will use false allegations. And we really need to find a way to disseminate that.
mhm,
And I really want to see where mediation is used more. I think
mhm,
that is a good first step for a lot of reasons. I think it helps to keep the courts from being bogged down so heavily. I think it's less expensive for sure to be able to go through that route, through a mediation route. I mean, I've been through it and it was way less expensive than going through a court process. But I would really like to see mediation as the first step. And it's not mandated that that's what everybody does. Some courts will start with that, with mediation, and then go from there. But I think that should definitely be considered as a first step in this whole realm, because I think a lot of things could get worked out that don't need to go into the court process. Like I said, it would help to alleviate a lot of the pressure on the court, because this is done in magistrate court, and they handle a lot of different issues in magistrate court.
Mhm.
So I think that it really bogs down the court system. So if we could use mediation as a first step, I think that would help out tremendously.
No, I agree because when people go to get divorced, they've got people chirping in their ears saying, "Oh no,
Sure.
you should go do this, that, and the other thing." When really it's not, it could not be a big deal. Just sit
Yeah.
down and discuss what, the days they'll share the kids. It can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's one area that I want that we as a committee want to look into of what we could do. Like I said, the cost involved. So if you do, so take say you go through the mediation process, it doesn't work and you have to go into the court
Mhm.
process, then we need to really look at what the cost involved with that. What are we requiring families to do? What are we requiring them to pay for? If there's an allegation made, who's going to pay for that evaluation or whatever it is
Mhm.
that's being done? So I think we need to look at the cost. The other area I think we need to look at is the terminology, the definitions that we're using. Parental alienation has come up multiple times, and from what I've learned, that is a made-up term that really doesn't have a lot of validity to it. And so we need to look into that. Also, neglect in the state of Idaho is a pretty broad and vague term that is defined in law. So maybe we need to shore that up a little bit too.
Mhm.
We do have a loophole in our law where children can be given to pedophiles, if they are biologically related. We actually ran a bill through the House. It made it through the House towards the end of this last session, but we were just kind of short in the timing. Committees had already been shutting down on the Senate side, so it got through the House to close up that loophole. So we'll be bringing that bill back because that needs to be taken into consideration. So those are some of the low hanging fruit that we could really see, as far as to make some positive changes in this court process.
Well, with the parental alienation, they've got parental alienation syndrome, which is not even what it really is child psychological abuse.
Mm.
And it is recognized because there's 20 million parents that are alienated from their kids, and it's mostly from the court system. The court system has allowed the abusive parent to brainwash the child to hate the other parent.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to me. And I have three kids that don't speak to me because, the stepmother worked in the courthouse and she had connections and there was
Mm.
no oversight and it just went
Just spiral.
bonkers. It
Yeah.
spiraled. And this is what's happening to a lot of parents that are unfortunately alienated. And it's okay to use that term,
Yeah. We have to
I'm
define it.
alienated, right? But,
Yeah.
I
But
know there's some,
let's define it so that it can't be so broadly utilized that
right,
everything can be considered, parental alienation. So,
right.
yeah, so I totally agree that, yeah. And
And
words have meaning, right? So you have to define what they mean and then use them appropriately. If you don't define it, anybody can put a definition to it, right? So
in
we have to make sure it's defined.
In fact, that is what the opposing attorney did. As soon as we walked in the courtroom, and this is what I wonder about too. Why does the opposing have the first call out? He called out, she's alienating the kids from the father and she's mentally ill. But no one ever touched the parental alienation. No one said, well, how is she alienating the kids from the father? It was
Yeah.
just a,
Yeah.
a useful term.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. So that's another area that we're looking into is the definitions of things.
Oh,
The other
thank you.
thing that we want to check on too that I think we could definitely do is like Utah went to a presumption of a 50-50 split, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of like their baseline to start, unless there's a reason that there
Mhm.
shouldn't be a 50-50 split. But I think that gives you a good baseline to start with to utilize is that if both parents are good parents, then it is in the best interest of the child to have both parents in their lives.
It is. Mhm.
Unless there's a reason that there shouldn't be. And then there has to, and then that would go through that process where evidence is brought in and all of that sort of stuff, right? But I think that's a really good starting point is to make sure that we use that as our baseline. I think that would work a lot better, in that way. Um, yeah, so those are some of those areas that we are definitely wanting to look into. And our goal is to, like I said, get a good purview of what the system is, the family court system is, and how that works in the state. We will be writing a white paper at the end of all of our committee hearings. We will be in Idaho Falls, like I said, the end of this month, and then next month we'll be in Canyon County, so over more that direction in Southwest Idaho, and then we'll be back in Boise for the following month. And then we're looking at actually adding one more committee hearing for November, but all it would be public testimony. So anybody that has not had the opportunity to testify, it would give them a opportunity to do so. So this committee is going to be running through probably November, and then we'll get a white paper put together and then start developing legislation as we're going through this process of these task force meetings.
Right. And that's got to be exhausting for you. Right.
It's a lot. It is a lot of work, but it is such an important thing. And I just think,
Hmm.
if it was my situation, if my situation hadn't worked out the way that it had, and I was in situations like a lot of these other families, what would I do? Like, what would I do? I am in no means a wealthy person. I have limited resources. I love my children. I want them to be part of my life. If they weren't and they were taken away from me, or I was having to fight, what would I do? And it just has to be such a disheartening feeling, and you can see it. I mean, it's an emotional, these
Hmm.
task force are very emotional. There's a lot of emotion that comes into play in hearing the stories and the experiences that these families have gone through.
Hmm.
And I feel for them. I really do. I feel for the situation that they're in. And trying to figure out how to get out of it. And that's the thing is there has to be an end. You can't just be in this loophole. And some of these people have been in this process for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And it's
Hmm.
like there has to be an end. You can't be in this process forever. It's not good. It's not good for the child, and it's not good for the individuals to be in a cycle that just does not end. So we have to figure out a way to make that work better.
Right, because it's causing personality disorders within the children through the psychological abuse that other parent and their family members and friends are putting them through to hate the other parent.
Well, and no stability. There is no
Right.
stability, and kids thrive on stability. They have to have stability in their lives. There's lots of different studies that have been done on when kids don't have stability, what that does to them for the rest of their lives. And it makes them a very anxious person, and they can't trust anybody. And,
Hmm.
there's just all sorts of different problems that come into play. And so we don't want to be setting kids up for failure for their adulthood in that manner. So we really need to make sure that there is stability that's brought into play. And so the quicker they can get through this process, no matter how hard it is or what have you, but the better it is going to be for the child and for the family. The
Yep.
other thing we want to make sure is that in that we've had some families that have told us they're not even being told what is going on in their court process. Like they don't even know sometimes that there's hearings coming up that they're supposed to be involved in, or the attorney doesn't even know because the notification is not getting to them. We
Hmm.
also have families where the kids have been taken away and they're given to a foster family versus a biological family member that would be more than willing to take them.
Hmm.
So that's another area that we need to be really focusing on. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of low hanging fruit, but this area of law just hasn't been really scrutinized over the last little while. There's been
Hmm.
some adjustments and some changes in law that have taken place, but it really hasn't had that fine-tooth comb, so to speak, gone through it to really look and see. And I think we have over 120 or 130 surveys that have been filled out so far. But
Mm.
I'm fielding emails daily or
Hmm.
text messages daily on this issue of people that want to speak or they want to share their story or they want to fill out the survey. So it has really opened up a lot of dialogue on really what's transpiring. And like I said, and other states are wanting to now emulate what we're doing here in Idaho. And so, it's definitely happening in a lot of areas.
Well, I think that should give parents hope that there will be change coming.
Yeah,
Just a lot of parents are saying, well, they're saying that these poor kids are being separated from their parents at the border, but what about our kids here in the United States that are being separated from
yeah,
fit-loving parents? And the judges are writing no contact orders on fit parents, and they'll be very emboldened by this. Well, they'll write, no contact orders, and then if you're a mom or dad, they'll also add on Mother's Day or on Father's Day as well. So why are
wow,
these judges
yeah.
being that emboldened to really crucify a fit parent?
Yeah, we don't want to see that happening. And like I said, we know this isn't a lump sum over every judge or every lawyer or anything like that. There's some really good ones and they do a great job
Hmm.
running their courts. But like I said, there are definitely some problems because we have had multiple stories now of different instances where you just are shaking your head like, what in the world is going on? Like, how did this happen? How did this even happen? Even with the
Right.
laws that we currently have in place, how was this seen as what is in the best interest of the child or the family?
Hmm.
Yeah.
The corruption's gotten out of hand. And I know I could talk to you all afternoon about this. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just say, again, if you're in the state of Idaho and you're going through this process, we really do want to hear from you. Like I said, you can reach out to me. My email is Nichols for Idaho. It's NICHOLS FOR Idaho at gmail.com. And they can request the link for the survey. So that's one thing that will really help us. Because, like I said, we're looking for patterns and we're looking for similarities in people's experiences. So we would really like to have as much information as we can from people in Idaho. If other states are interested in doing that, they're more than welcome to reach out to me at that same email, and I'd be glad to get them in contact with some of the people that we're working with to help us in this manner.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we want to make positive changes for the families here in Idaho that are going through these very emotional and trying situations because we want the best experience for everybody. And like I said, I know not everybody's going to be 100% happy with the outcome,
Hmm.
but our goal is to do what's in the best interest of the child and to make sure that their emotional state, their mental state, that they feel loved, that they know that their parents are there for them.
Hmm.
We want to do what's in the best interest of the child and to support the families in that process. And so that's really the ultimate goal here.
I agree. And I totally appreciate your time.
Yeah, no,
And
my pleasure.
I'd love to have you come back on for an update when you're ready.
Sure. Absolutely. I'd be glad to.
Okay, hey, don't jump off. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Senator Tammy Nichols. I totally appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.